Good morning. It's Mary coming to you from my crop room once again, just to show you what I've been up to. It was a fun weekend, even though the weather was gorgeous. I planned on watching most of the Close to My Heart Facebook Live. I watched as much as I could. It went quite late, and so I watched the rest of it the next day. For any of you who did not get to tune in, pick a rainy day, go to the Close to My Heart Facebook page, and all the segments for the workshops have been recorded, so you can watch them as you wish. There were prize winners for those that entered. As the ones that I saw, I recognized no one from our group, so I'm sorry that you didn't win. I didn't either, but that's okay. There's still lots of fun to be had with this new catalog for May and June. I am going to show you some cards that I've been up to making and some other little projects and a layout, and I hope you'll enjoy. I got a couple techniques to show you that I think you'll also enjoy. For those of you who have the workshops coming, I know there's a few of you, you'll enjoy making them. I've sent you all the PDF files to make the cards if you want to, or the layouts. I suggest, if you did not get one of the workshop kits, to get into your stash. For the card workshop, the one that I did, you only need to have a mix-in packet and matching cardstocks. And you'll see in the instructions how many pieces of cardstock you need and how many pieces of the patterned paper. You could use a regular paper pack too. Just use both sides of the paper. Use one sheet on one side and one sheet on the other, because I think you need 5 or 6 sheets of paper. So whatever you want to, these cards are very versatile. You do not need to have the stamp sets to do them. I pulled a million of my stamp sets out and had a grand old time on Sunday creating the cards that I cut, because I did not buy the workshop number 2. I bought workshop number 1 because I liked the stamp set. That would be the only reason to buy them, is if you like the stamp set, because the papers you could use with any of your papers to create the workshops. So I suggest that if you haven't already seen them, look into the workshop videos on Facebook, Close to My Heart Facebook page. Join their page so you can get some good inspiration for other things. There's lots of creative people that post a lot of fun things. So I want to get started with workshop number 2. This was the workshop number 2. I cut all the cards. You make 4 of each style, but I used my own stamps. And I think, for the most part, I'm very pleased with the results. You could customize them. If you need to make a bunch of birthday cards, you could customize them for birthdays. I kind of customize them just to send a happy hello to people on this particular workshop, but I had a lot of fun doing it. You don't need they used arrows here. I used bling. They used shopping carts on this one. I used the daisy from the stamp set that These Are My People. Some of you got that workshop, so you have that stamp set. That's the little daisy from the These Are My People. This is the one I love to death, the Queen Bee one. What did I do with those stamp sets? Right here, this one, the Queen Bee one. I love this one, and I've used this bee several times, and this is kind of a fun thing, and I like the words "be kind." I wasn't sure how much I would use this, but I gotta tell you, I've used it on a few cards. So these are the workshop cards I did, but here's some more that I did with the Queen Bee. Those are the workshop cards. This is the Queen Bee ones I've done, which I really, really liked. They're fun. I just made up the designs myself. I used a little embossing folder on this one. I actually heat embossed the bees on these with black embossing powder, but I thought they came out fun. And it's such a versatile little stamp, and this is that little doily that we just sold, a lot of you have, that you could just stamp him. He fits perfect on there. You don't need the thin cuts unless you want them. I did not get them because he's pretty easy to cut out. As you can see here, I just cut him out, and if you put him on white, you don't even notice the edges of the bee that aren't perfect. So that one's fun. I like this little Queen Bee one. That's one of the new ones in there. This is another fun one to do, the Ladybug one. I love it. This one right here is just the Ladybug, no shaker card. So these are the stamps that go with it, right here. And it says, "Flying by to say hello, ladybug kisses and birthday wishes, hey there little lady." And they're fun. And these little dots you can do to color in your little thing. And then I just put the little greeting there. I did use glitter paper, and I used his little antenna there. This is a really cute one. Now here's the shaker card. The shaker card I've done a few times for little kids, little girls, but you can shake it and you can put little things inside it. You do need to use these little shaker window foam and acetate pieces. That works good for them to put the, to make it raise, so you can put the acetates there and then you raise it. I actually love using the glitter paper on this. And I don't know if you can tell, but I actually went over this with a little liquid glass. It really looks fun in real person. You can see it a little bit there in the camera. But I actually love this one. And I'm going to show you how to put them together. You can get out some of your old brads. That's what I use, the brads. Here's the pieces when you cut them. I just cut it out of plain cardstock right here. And there's, if you'll notice, there's 2 holes on the top here, on the little wings. There's 2 little holes, and you just kind of put them together. And you get out your brads. I have a stash of them from a while ago. And you need to pull out a little, I get a little black one usually. It doesn't really matter. You could use a silver one. I like to use the black ones though, because they look a little, they blend in a little better. You don't have to have it blend in. If you have some fun little fancy ones, they're cute to use also. And then you just thread it through. You thread it through one wing, the other wing, and then through the top. And you open it. And to cut your circle, I use the circle dies that we have because they fit perfect inside here. Or you can recut the ladybug if you want. I just use, let me see, which one do I use? I use this one right here, this circle die, the biggest circle die. And it cuts a perfect white piece for inside here. And to stamp this, I'll show you how. You can just stamp the little dots right on the wings. Just take the little dot out, any one you want, or you could use all 3 if you want. I usually just pick one and do them all the same. It's just as easy to do. Get your little block out, and you can use intense black or memento ink. Either, any black will work, because you're not really going to, unless you're going to put the embossing stuff over it, or the liquid glass. I would use one of the intense blacks or the other. But then you can just go right over the top. To get on top of it a little bit to see it. There you go. And then you just can keep stamping them up just like that. Doesn't matter if they're right in the middle, but you can see how the wings are a little perforated, and the black ink just covers it right over the top. Comes out really cool. I like it, and it's fun. I've made, as I say, I've made a few this way for kids for birthdays and cheer me up kind of things. Sent one to my great niece. I sent one to the little girl down the street who had a drive-by birthday party. It was really cute. So that's that. I love that. And here's the little die set that you can get to go. They're 2 separate purchases. This does not come as a bundle. It's on page 44 of the catalog. And this one that goes with it, where'd I put that one? Right here. This one's on page 44 also. The flying by one. So it's really a cute little set to get. It was my first purchase from the new catalog because I really, really liked this one. Now, let's get on to the next one. Oh, the next one, my favorite one is A Million, what is it called? A Million Little Things? A Million Little Things. I love, 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 and a lot of people do. If anything sells out, this one will. I guarantee you, because there's been so many great ideas for it. With this one, I just stamped with my, I inked up my tulip one with my watercolor pens. And then I just used my paintbrush with a little water on it like I do to paint with my watercolors, and just pull the color out from the lines. And if you need extra, you just put it on your little palette and add a little extra in there. This was just a swish swish with some watercolor from my palette, the watercolor ink pens. This is another one I did. I just stamped it, the rose one in black, on a pattern paper from the mix-in packet. Glacier is the background of this one. And I used, I think it was the mint, you know, the shimmer brush. mint shimmer brush to do just a little accent on the roses. And the green, I actually used, I think it was sage green for, or was it julep? It might have been julep. That was julep, sorry. It was julep on the green. And it gives it just a little shimmer in real person. And then for the last one, I'm going to show you a technique. I made a bunch of these. It's called the bouquet technique, and I'm sure some of you have seen it before, but I just loved the simplicity of this card. I haven't put any greetings on them yet. I may use birthday, you could use sympathy, you could use anything, hello, you could use anything on these cards, but they're just so versatile, and they're so simple to make up. I used on this one, I used saffron, gold rush, and paprika. And you always pick the darkest color, at least I did, for the background piece here. And then you just cut your white piece at, where's my white piece that I'm going to show you on? You cut your white piece at 3 3/4 by 5. So this white piece is 3 3/4 by 5. So this is probably 4 by 5 1/4, the darker piece in the background, the colored cardstock. So that was those 3 colors. This one is the purples, and I'm thinking of you, Mary Ellen, because I know how you love your purples. Not my favorite, but it came out really nice. I used lilac, thistle, and eggplant for this one. Those are the colors I used. And again, eggplant for the background. This one's my favorite, and this is the one I'm going to show you in these colors, because I love my blues. Actually, on this one, I actually used heat embossing. And I liked how it came out dark, but it was hard to get out the extra little pieces, even though I did use the, embossing buddy on there to get, so it wouldn't pick up this. It did still pick up a little bit of that. So if that doesn't bother you, I like the look of this one because I think it's a little more bold than the others. I guess you have to experiment a little bit with the different inks because this one didn't come out as dark. The black on there, and I did use a good black, but it still didn't. So this is the one I'm going to show you, so I'll leave that one right there. And then this is the other one I used. Glacier, Lagoon, and Peacock. And this one I actually did stamp a sentiment, and you can go right over the top of it with happy birthday or whatever you'd like. So that one I did. So I'm going to show you how to do this technique now. This is the card that I finished, and that's actually sapphire in the background. So I used sapphire, Carolina, that's the lightest, and Bluebird. Now to do this technique, I used the little sponges. And I need to get my colors, so let's see here. I'll just use a new one then here. Because I can't find my colors that I used, my actual ones. I didn't pull them out. I had them out and then I put them away, and then you know how it goes. When you're busy doing things, you have to improvise a little bit. Let's get a couple out. So you take your little piece of paper, which I've misplaced right now. Where did I put my little piece of paper here? That's missing. Here it is. Alright, here's my little piece of paper. And you start out with your darkest color first, is how I did it. And you just take it and you use a little stencil. Now, the biggest stencil I used was this one. And how I did that was I used my 1-inch circle punch. This is just a piece of vellum. And I used my 1-inch circle punch. And I just punched a hole in it. I didn't use it to do this part, but this is how you do this. For the white, when you do the white, you just punch a hole in it like that. But this I just kind of went in and just started like this, going around and around and around. And the dark one, you really want to get dark. So I kept going around and around and around and around. And you want to make them all circles. And you kind of just pick a spot and start. And I started with 3 dark circles because I think 3 is a good number to do for this. And just kind of stay in the center because you really want the center dark because you want some contrast here. There's that. So I'm done with that one. Cover, cover, cover. There we go. Next I use Bluebird because that's the next darkest. And just grab a sponge. And we'll go here. And you want to blend it into the other ones too a little bit. So blend it in a little, but make sure it's light because you want some lights and some darks with this. So when you blend them into the others, kind of make the edges a little light, but make the centers dark. And again, I did 3. You can always go back in again and do more dark if you need it a little darker or you need to fill in a little. You can always go back and do that. There's that one. Last one is Carolina. That's my lightest. And I'm just going to go in the centers here where there's nothing because you want the whites all covered. And again, you want it fairly dark even though it's a light color. You want that ink to be really intense on the paper. This is one where you really want a lot of ink. These really do work up fairly quickly once you get this part of it done. And there you go. This side could use a little more. I think it's quite dark enough, not enough intensity. There you go. So see, that's what it should look like, kind of like a mess, but it's really not a mess. Because wait to see what happens next. That was Carolina. Now, the next one you're going to get, you want a pigment pad. And by that I mean, some of you may have the craft white or the old white we used to sell, the white daisy one. It's a pigment pad, and how you know the difference is it's usually a spongy ink pad rather than a felty ink pad like the others. So it's soft, it has a little give like a sponge would. And I actually use a dauber. I think a dauber works the best to do this. And I kind of went on the ends because the dauber will, as you can see, pick up some of the inks of the ones that you're using over. You know, like it'll pick up the purple. If you're using purple, it'll pick up the blue. And what I did was, you need 3 sizes of circles. My biggest one is a 1-inch, and I just used a piece of vellum for that. And then here's the other. I use these 2 circles here on this stencil. So I start with the biggest one first. And what I forgot to tell you on this was, I made this one all, I'm going to have to cut it down because I made it all, the whole sheet. When I did these, I used my tape. I just realized I did that. I used the tape and I centered it on my mat like this. And I used 3/4 of an inch in. So I went 1, 2, 3 blocks and I taped it across like that. And I did all sides so that I had this white edge. But I really just want to demonstrate the technique, so I did not do that with this. But that's how I achieved just the little square in the center, is that I used my Post-it note tape and I went in 3 blocks on my mat on each side like that, and on the 2 sides. And that's how I, before I actually did all the sponging, that's how I did that. So if you want to have it look like, or you can cut this out and just put it on a piece of white, that will work also, if it's easier for you to do. Make it smaller and put it in the center. But I liked how it looked on here because there's no edge. So that's how I achieved that. And I just, when I did the blues, I used 1 set of strips, and then when I used another color, I used another set of strips of the Post-it note tape, and it holds it perfectly fine. So now on these, you're just going to go around, you're going to get your ink, and you're going to just rub it. Now, the thing about it is when you do your first layer, you don't need to be really heavy-handed on this because you're going to go over it with some of the others too. So I just did a few, and you want to go do some off your page too. Like here, maybe I'll do one off the page. See how I've got the black there? So it's only going to be like a 3/4, because you want to make it look, you know, anytime you stamp or you do anything, you want to do some off the page, just so you know, it just looks better. It just, I don't know what the deal is, but it does look better when you do it that way. Half ones and full ones and like this. Like that. So that's how you do that part. And then I went in with this one and did a few of these around the next size. And just did a few. Doesn't matter where, just a few. Spread them out. And if you get a little blob, like I have a little blob right there, just make it a thing. No big deal. I'm not going to wreck anything. Just go right ahead and go over it. Now there's no mess there now. I went over it. And I'm going to do one off the page here a little bit of these. And maybe one over here. Kind of a little off the page. And then maybe one up here. There you go. So now I've got those in. Now there's a little tiny one on here. Now this is a stencil I already had. So if you have 3 sizes of circle punches, 3 sizes of circle punch will work fine on your vellum paper. Just make sure you use vellum because it doesn't bleed through. And now I'm going to go through and put a few little dots around. I'm not really paying a whole lot of attention where I'm putting these because they just need to be on there. Doesn't matter where they are. Spread them out. I actually think I'll use more, because this is a bigger sheet, I'll use more of the dots than the smaller size, but you're getting the idea. So now I've got them all randomly placed. Now what you need to do is go back in and overlap a little bit. Like that. Overlap. And that's what's going to give it the fun look. And this is the one where you want it a little darker. So see how it's coming out a little darker? You can also use your big one again. Like if I wanted to use my big one here, I'd kind of connect those two. Because you should use your big one again too. But a finger dauber works the best because you have a little more control with a finger dauber to do this part. And you want to keep it kind of controlled. And I'll do one maybe over here. See if I can go over that whole one right there. See what happens when I do that. Probably see it a little bit through there. Maybe not. But you can always go back in and put another one over the top of that. Kind of covered it up. But we can go over and fix that again. So you're kind of getting the idea that you kind of just go in and you redo a little bit. Now, a suggestion, if you decide you want to do the heat emboss, let these dry a little while. Because this pigment ink takes a while and it will pick up your embossing powder if it's wet. Because pigment ink also is great to do for that. If you want to stamp something with a color behind it and use clear embossing powder, you can use pigment ink and it will pick it up because it stays wet longer. That's the whole key with picking up the embossing powder, is that the ink will stay wet longer than a regular ink pad. If you're quick, you can do it with our regular ink pads too. It will pick it up with a color. So see, that's how I did it. And that's called your bouquet technique. And it's a really fun technique to do. And then you can let it dry a little while and just stamp anything over it, really. You could stamp just a greeting if you wanted to over the top of it. And what makes it really pop is when you use, you know, when I had the white there and when I had the darker color. So that's the bouquet technique that I used on these cards, which was really fun. Now, a couple of other little things that I've done that have been kind of fun too are making some tags to go with my masks that I've been making. And I used the little stamp set that came with card kit number 1, which I really liked. I thought it was the cutest darn thing, and I think I've gone on about that before too. Now, how I did this tag with, I actually stamped the little thing on the card in black. And then because it has, let's see if I can find the stamp set here. Well, it is here someplace. Or maybe it's right here in this pile. I put it in that pile. Let me just see here. If I put it in the pile, right? Yep, I did. Right here. So, I stamped this little guy on a tag. Get him out and do it. My block. Stamp this little guy in black. On a tag. Like this. And I stamped him towards the top. Like that. And then I took a little scrap paper, stamped him again, and I fussy cutted him out. And I went pretty close to the edge because I wanted it to be fairly close to the edge when I went over it. So you fussy cut it out. Pardon me taking the time to do this on camera, but that's what makes it cute. You can see you, Donna, with your little knife doing this. There you go. So she's all cut out. Garbage. Alright, now on this part I used mint ink, and there's actually a little filler on the set right here. A little filler thing that you can use. I'll close this up in a moment. And I used mint ink for that. So I'll just put it on the other side of this block. And I used a little mint. On the video, they actually used Lagoon and stamped off. But I think the mint works better and you don't have to stamp it off. You just go right over the top. Like that. And then what I did was I went in with my little water brush and picked up some ink on the top here like we do and just did the little dots, filled the little dots with the ink in this little thing right here with some ink. And you can go down here and make this a little darker if you want, make some streaks in there or whatever. It helps to make it look a little more real if you have some of those little dots in there like bubbles. And that's how I did that with the mint ink. Now next, I used a little of my green Tombow, you know, the temporary. Puts a little blob of that on the back of it. Went over the top like this and covered it up. And then I used a little saffron ink with a sponge dauber. And then just kind of went over the top of it like this. Oops, I don't want it to move. Make sure that's down good. Ah! Stay there, you little stinker. I think I might have used the blue ink because it doesn't stay, the blue Tombow to hold it better. Because you want to go over the top of it and make a yellow halo. And again, I did it pretty dark. So then you just pull that off and you have your white piece there. Magic. Magic, magic, magic it is. And then I used candy apple ink right here. And I stamped these little hearts that are on the set across the bottom. Just across here. And actually this fits really perfect on this tag. This is one of our tags from the tag set. You just do two. That's not enough ink. Just do two across the bottom. like that. And then you can take your black again. And there's one here that says, spread joy, not germs. Take that off. Put that on here. Take that off so I don't get red on there. And then I used my intense black. Inked it up really well. And stamp that right there. And there's your tag. And I tied a little of my green twine that I had here. Just any twine would work. I had some green, so I used that. And this is what I did with it. I have to send some of these to my son in Montreal, and I'm going to send some for a couple of his friends. I made up the masks and I tied it together with that, and then I can put to and from on the back and put a little note. I thought they made up a really cute little something to send someone to help them out a little bit. Now, the other thing I did with this particular stamp set was a layout. We went on a walk and I used it down here. 518 Chasing Rainbows, and I used the germs there, and I took pictures of some of the rainbows the kids had left or people had left. And then to document Corona 2020 on one of our walks, my delivery man delivering my milk and groceries to the house, and my little notes. And I used a heart, this heart in there this time. I used the little heart up at the top so I could use different colors of ink to make the rainbow colors. So that was a little layout I did that was kind of fun. So I hope you've enjoyed my little techniques, but make sure you do get to the Facebook page and at least look at the videos if you want, but also the PDF files that I sent you. There's one for layouts and there's two for cards. The layout one and card number 1, which is this set right here. This is card number 1, this set. I have not done yet. And I don't know that for card number 1, it's all cardstock. But here's the deal with that. You don't have to use cardstock for that one. You could use pattern paper and mix it in. As long as they coordinate, just take one of your packs that you've got paper left in and do it. Because it's a lot of fun and you can make all kinds of cards out of the templates. So enjoy, and I hope you get to make some cards. See you soon, I hope. Bye-bye.